Hello and welcome to Predictocast, the podcast where we predict a movie storyline after watching only the first 10 minutes and knowing nothing else about it. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Oh, just a second. I gotta put you on hold. Click.
Already we're getting with this. Already you're starting.
Already. Oh, because there's nothing but this, Josh. There's nothing but this. This is what this is now. This is what our show is now.
Okay, so we are talking about the rest of Denise Calls Up. And I think we kind of nailed it in part one. We said this movie's going to take place entirely in one shots with everybody on the fucking phone. And pretty much until the last, maybe 5 minutes of the movie, it does.
I mean, there is some action before them, but it also still involves a single camera and a phone.
Yes, it's always a person on the phone in various settings, whether it's in their office, in their home, on the toilet. In a hotel room, whatever it is, it's always one person per phone, and that is it until the very end of the movie. I get what they're doing. I get why it's happening the way that it is. There are things about this movie that I like and I find interesting, but also it's an experiment that I don't know if it's totally successful. I don't think that it is.
This is going to be hard for me because this movie was genetically made in a lab to be a movie that I hate.
You hated this.
Fucking hate this movie. I hate everything it says. I hate that everyone said yes to making it. In life.
Sorry, Darren.
Darren, go fuck yourself. Thanks for the money. In life, in general, like I worked a phone job for 15 years.
Okay.
I hate talking on the phone. I hate phone. I hate if my spouse, if my partner, my life partner is on the phone with anyone, I can't be in the same room. I fucking hate people talking on the phone. I hate awkward conversations on the phone. I hate listening to them. I hate everything about it. And that is entirely what this movie is about. I hate everything this movie is trying to say about society because it's a small slice of people looking at a small slice of people and going, you know what's wrong with everybody? You know what's wrong with everybody? I don't know if you know, but everyone's on their goddamn phone. Did you know that? We don't even get together anymore. Nothing can pull us together anymore, except maybe babies. I don't know. And and to the point where I made a prediction that's so fucking dead on in part one. So fucking dead on because I knew exactly what kind of movie this was. It's a movie that takes fucking headlines of that exact single moment in time that this movie is made. Because this movie is of an exact single moment. I thought, what were they fucking wouldn't shut up about back then? It's fucking biological clock. The Time magazine cover with a woman in a business suit looking concerned with a clock behind her says biological clock because we were really fucking into that now. And what was funny about biological clocks? If you're making a movie that you think is funny and timely and saying something, you make it about a fucking sperm bank. And sure as fucking
you called it.
Sure as fucking hell. Yes. One character is calling the other because she is pregnant with his sperm bank and sperm bank donation, his spank bank donation, which they set up in such a way that is so flimsy and stupid and blown off that it made me angrier when he's just like, I read an article in Newsweek about women's biological clocks, so I thought I would go donate to a sperm bank. It's like no,
he's so fucking great. Like, oh, I need to get my seed out there to help these women.
He just says it, and the guy's like, oh, I read that article too. And then they kind of move on. It's like, you read that article and found it interesting, and then you don't go and make a donation. Like, that's not how your brain works. But the movie decided, like, we don't have a reason for this character, whose name is Wiener, to go and donate sperms. But it's so fucking hot right now to be talking about the biological clocks and making their own decisions, which is an amazingly new thing we never thought of before. Maybe we're a little judgmental about it. But right now, we are going to make sure that this character named Wiener donated to a sperm bank so that this other character can be his the mother of his child, which is very edgy at the moment, very, very, very topical. But we really don't know a way to really make that logical happen. So we'll just like some other things, like really inappropriate jokes, we'll just have someone say it and move the fuck on.
All right. So you brought up that plot line Why the fuck is this movie called Denise Calls Up? Why is it named after her?
I don't know. Why isn't it called Gale Dies Hilariously?
Gale, who loses half of her face in a car accident and gets a phone jammed in her brain.
Yes, Gale, who was a main character.
Shocking to me. Spoiler alert, by the way, a character who is set up as, potentially a sort of pseudo main character, dies tragically off screen, and we're told that half of her face is missing by her mother, who can't stop talking about it, that her spine was severed, and that the phone, they know that she was on the phone at the time of the accident because the receiver went through her ear canal and lodged itself in her brain.
This movie is trying to tell you so hard, and it's being irreverent.
Don't talk and drive, kids.
Don't talk and drive, but also like these characters can't get off the phone enough. This character, who is not played for comedy, dies unexpectedly off screen, and it is played 100% for laughs. That like her mother can't stop talking about it. And that she died in a car accident when another car hit her and shoved the phone, which she could not put down, because these people can't put down their phones because we just don't talk anymore to each other. This phone went through her ear canal into her brain and shoved off half her face. That's not what killed her. The impact also snapped her spinal cord. But they did it like I don't like any of these characters, but the fact that they killed her in this way seemed so irresponsible.
So mean.
Like, okay, in part one, I had a problem with this character, Gale. And I said, like, I don't get people who are desperate to hook up other two people. Like, her character, for about 9% of her time on the screen, which ends at 38 minutes in, she is just, all she wants to do, she talks to Tim Daly from Wings and Mr. Jekyll, Ms. Hyde. His character, Tim Daly's character, Tim Daly, his friend Jerry, played by Liv Shriver, and her friend Barbara, played by Caroline Feeney, trying to hook those two together. And the joke is like they just keep talking around and they don't meet up with each other and they're talking to each other. And Tim Daly and Gale are used to be together, and now they floated apart, and they can barely remember why they floated apart. They're clearly still talking all the time, but they don't get together because we don't get together anymore. But like, I couldn't get over like, why is she so single-mindedly obsessed with this? Because it doesn't make any sense at all. Like she's too obsessed with it. And then when all of a sudden it's brought up she's dead. At first I thought it's going to be a phone mistake. It's another Gale. It's not. She's dead. And I thought, okay, well, she died. So maybe she was trying to get them together because she knew she was dying. She had a very poignant scene beforehand where she admitted she was lonely, right?
Yeah. She still has a longing for Frank. Her and Frank had dated a while back. They split up around 5 years ago prior to the start of the movie. And she kind of has they have this conversation where she sort of seems longing, like, we should do something and get back together and, hang out. Like, we should actually, hang out together. And he's like, yeah, we should do that. And then she's dead like 4 days later.
Yes, because these characters don't. The joke of the movie is they keep saying they're gonna meet in person and they won't. That's the whole thing. And like, it's a moment of actual humanity for this character who constantly, her only thing is Barbara should get together with Jerry. And, she only will talk to Tim Daly. Tim Daly is busy with his airport, everything else.
He's the main character. He's like first listed in the cast because I guess he was the hottest star at the time. He's barely in the movie.
Right. It's Liev and Caroline's movie. Like, it's Barbara and Jerry. They're the main characters.
Yes.
But they're not as, which is funny because Liev is more famous than him not too long after this.
Yeah.
In fact, like, I thought it was funny when Ada Turturro comes back into the movie because Gale is removed from the movie because nature abhors a phone vacuum. But anyways, Gale has this moment of she's actually a real character, and then she's dead. And we heard she's dead, and I'm thinking like, okay, well, she wanted them together. She wanted them together.
Yeah.
Because she knew she was dying and she wanted to create something, a connection with people. She had lost it with Frank, but she wanted to see someone else have what she lost because her time is running out. And she isn't getting back together with Frank, even though she wants to because she knows she's dying. No, she was in a car accident and a phone went through her fucking brain.
Yeah, that would have made sense. And also it would have had, there would be some poignancy at the end if Jerry and Barbara actually got together because like Gale wanted it so bad. But of course they don't. And that's the joke of the movie is that these people who have chemistry only over the telephone, but have never met in person and apparently have been having a thing for several months in the course of the film's timeline and have never met. It blows my fucking mind because of right now, like where we are in this point in time in our lives, where a lot of us are isolated from each other. We are desperate for human interaction. We're desperate for actually being around people that don't live in our homes and for those of us who are lucky to live with people who have someone to talk to, but for those who don't, those who are by themselves, like are craving physical in-person interactions that we can't do because of what we are going through right now. And these people have a chance to actually form a real human connection with people, and they can't get off the fucking telephone to do it.
And I know nowadays we have online interactions, online relationships. Josh and I don't see each other that often. We live far apart, but we talk all the time. We talk all the time.
We do talk all the time. We rub our microphones on our chest hair.
Oh, I mean, I caress it. I caress this. He sent me this nice SLR cable, nice braided cable.
That's
really,
right, I did.
And it feels so good on the skin. But the whole
and you put that right up your ass,
right up my ass. It grabs all the particulates. So. Put that on the clip for the Twitter. I mean, like, the world is so crazy. Like, I am literally at this moment, and this is something that happened earlier in the day, it's happening again. There's a fucker across the street from me. Right now, he is sitting in the middle of the sidewalk. He has two whips. He is just snapping them into the air. He's been doing this on and off for hours. I keep hearing cracking sounds. It's this guy who is snapping whips in the air on the sidewalk, on a public sidewalk, on a busy street. Or no one could go by him because he has two whips. Now someone has come along and is now filming him doing it literally inches from where the whips are snapping their face.
That's going to be on Twitter later. That's going to be on TikTok later. Like people are going to be sharing that video all over the place.
I hope they are getting it in before the deadline of Sunday today, the time when this is being recorded, because something has to come. The fact I've had to watch this guy dual wield whips on the street, and I was trying to do work whilst there's snapping sounds of Simon Belmont across the street going fucking nuts. I can only assume this guy is going crazy because we are so isolated that he has decided not only will I take up one whip, I will take up the art of using two whips at once. And that is how crazy we are going from isolation. And yet these people in this movie have no whips, have only phones and laptops. It is funny to me that on the synopsis for this movie for somewhere, they mentioned in this new age of internet and wireless phone, there's no internet in this movie. Is there?
No, I don't think so. They use fax machines, regular telephones, and Denise has a cell phone.
You would never fax a picture of someone.
Okay, so we have to talk about this. This is pretty early on in the 10 minutes when we come back after we recorded the stuff for part one. But like a lot of this movie, pretty much 95% of it is people calling someone and then getting a call waiting call in and then them talking to them and then switching back and forth multiple times between the different parties. And one of these calls happens pretty early on where, let me try to remember this. Jerry calls Barbara and Barbara is nervous. And then Barbara calls Gale to tell her that Jerry has called her, and they talk about this blind date thing that Barbara's nervous about, and she laments her last blind date, which the movie chooses this moment to just drop a rape joke and then just move right past it, where she says, "My last blind date, that I had so many years ago. The guy had really serious eyes, and Gale's like, oh, he probably wasn't too bad. And she goes, no, he tried to rape me. And Gale was like, what? No. And that's it. And then they just move on. And it's like, what the fuck? That doesn't, like, I can't wrap my brain around why they thought that was fine to just casually throw in there, and that this woman is scared about going on a blind date because the last time she did, the guy tried to sexually assault her, and she's nervous about that potentially happening again. That's awful.
It's okay. I know 1996 was a different time, and we made jokes about this more.
But we're looking at it at 2020. It's awful, and it's very off-putting.
It's awful. And I mean, okay, Hal Salwin, who wrote and directed this movie, there is zero need for this to be said. The way she is brought up and is blown off, like, just completely like a guy. You have to have a lighter touch with bringing up that topic than a 13-year-old YouTuber talking about talking about a horror video game where he's afraid he's being chased by a monster and he keeps using that word. You have to have a lighter touch as a filmmaker who apparently won awards at Cannes with this movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But also a lot of shit gets stuff at Cannes.
Yeah, they're up their own ass on that stuff. I think they gave the Joker a fucking standing ovation or something.
Yeah, I love, like, not to digress, but to give more time, this movie has nothing to talk about. Well, this guy outside whips and nays. Just goes like every now and then you hear like, oh, something debuted at Cannes and has its bidding war and it did great there. And like when I was younger and cared more about movies than I do now before these movies like this broke me, like you think, oh, well, that's supposed to be, you know, critics love to get invitations there. Like that's where like they do all these screeners and all the big names and all the Hollywood stars there. And then you like hear what movies were up for were finalists for awards. And then like 2 months later, we like come out and like get an entire like, oh, this guy just ruined his career with his up his own ass movie. Like actually like actual critics, when they got their hands on it, who weren't there, who weren't being wined and dined, fucking hate this movie.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it just like,
I think
I feel like Tiff is getting there too a little bit, just to throw shade at Tiff because I know someone who works there. He might be listening.
I feel like I've lost a little bit of my enthusiasm for movies too, not necessarily because of that, but just I think because of like quarantine and coronavirus and everything. Like I see all these movie trailers and I'm like, I'll see that eventually, maybe. Like, I don't know if I'll ever see it in a movie theater. I don't know if I will ever, feel comfortable going to movie theaters again. Like, if I do, is it going to be 2022 before I feel comfortable doing that again? Like, I see all these movie trailers. I see the Batman trailer and the Dune trailer and all this stuff. And people are like, all their minds are blown and it looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm sure I'll see it eventually. But like, I feel like not going to the theater as much as I was has really affected me, has put like this weird like dampening on my excitement for movies. And I feel like it's maybe the transition point in my life where I just don't go to the movie theater as much anymore. Like I needed quarantine for that to I knew it was going to happen eventually because like all my other friends, like I don't have any children, but like my friends who have kids and stuff, that's a nuclear it's a nuclear bomb on your ability to go to movies. Yes, exactly. And I think this is kind of my kids moment. It's like quarantine came and it completely evaporated my enthusiasm for going to the movie theater. And so like I still get excited about seeing stuff at home, but like my excitement is very tamped down comparatively. And I think that this is the thing that happens. It's like me having a kid. It's just that it happened to be a horrible, wide-ranging pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh, if you go worldwide, we're getting close to 1 million. But who's counting? Because we're clearly not. No, like I appreciate that people enjoy it. that it gives them something to do. Like, I don't, if you're going to fight about it and get very angry about things, about what movie's best, like in rankings, go fuck yourselves. Who cares? Really? As long as you're not liking a movie that glorifies something horrifying, like
sure, whatever.
But like having a kid and then kind of just not going to movies for years that aren't fucking despicably and then falling asleep during it. It gave me that separation of like, that's something other people are doing, and you get that in your head sometimes, like, and you're watching other people get very passionate about it, and you're like, that's something they're passionate about, but I'm not. And when you have that kind of moment of like, I'm not passionate about it, and I see someone very passionate about it, you kind of get like this kind of weird, like, why are they getting that passionate about it? And it's very important in life to not go like, well, I'm right and they're wrong. But it really kind of sometimes just gets to the point where like, you just, it kind of takes the medium away from you further. Like,
yeah, I think
like they're having a like someone, you see someone else having an almost different chemical reaction to something than you have. And you're like, oh, what's wrong with me?
Yes.
Like,
I think that all the time. Someone asked me that, and I was like, I don't know. I think I'm broken. I don't know. I don't know why it happened, but I think it's happened. So let's get back to this movie. Anyway, so she drops that.
Speaking of broken people.
Yes, exactly. She drops that horrible bombshell, and she is like, well, I don't know what this guy looks like. And Gale then calls Frank, who she asks, does he have a photo of Jerry? And he's like, well, no, not really, but he has something. So he then faxes that photo to Gale, who then faxes that to Barbara. And it's a photo of Jerry as a child, like a very small child.
Like a birthday party kid.
At a birthday party. And this is the director. This is when I think I mentioned it in part one of like the director playing Jerry as a child, and I was like, how does that work? How old is the director? Is he like 12 years old? But this photo is of the director, but that's the child version of Jerry. And Barbara smiles at this and goes, he's cute. And it's like, okay, what's going on with Barbara? She attracted to children. So she tries to talk to Jerry, but he's gone because I guess it's probably taken 15 to 20 minutes for them to go back and forth and get this fucking photo faxed over.
I don't know. Like I was so blown away that the idea of like trying to set someone up, and you know, the joke is guys don't have pictures of their guy friends, which no longer is a thing that exists because we all have Facebook and we all have Twitter and we all have LinkedIn to a lesser degree and other things to a lesser degree. Like I could send someone a video of Josh on a scooter playing to. They see me rolling. They hate it. If they ask me like, "What's Josh like?" I had the perfect video for you, my friend. But when they faxed it, a kid picture, I like my brain broke. Speaking of brain break, I'm like, what is this world? And was it like, because I was very much like not a little kid in 1996. I was graduating high school, and no one I know would ever do this.
Hey man, fax me those kid pics.
I'm sure it happened. I'm glad I don't know those people.
Real perverts sharing children photos on a fax machine.
Well, let's.
It's like people. It's like people swapping VHS tapes, like on kind of an underground thing. That's how Mystery Science Theater kind of got spread around, and all these weird like found footage festival videos and stuff. People were sharing just videotapes back and forth. Well, and there was also just a group of people sharing pics of kids via a fax machine network.
Why is Barbara's name almost Barbara Gordon?
I don't know. It is. It's Barbara Gordon. Yeah, I did not notice that.
That can't be a like.
Speaking of the Joker, he came to her. She should have ended up in a wheelchair at the end of this movie.
Like Martin's last name being Wiener. We haven't talked much about Martin yet. Martin's last name being Wiener is a joke. The fact that his name is Wiener.
Yeah, it's Wiener, and he gave a sperm donation, and now he has a child.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's talk about the Denise storyline.
Okay, so I don't get why. I mean, I guess I do in a way, because at the end of towards the end of the movie, she's sort of responsible for, in a way, bringing all these people together. but it's kind of flimsy, like the way that it happens. So as we mentioned in part 1, Martin is a business guy. I don't know what the fuck he does.
Business.
Yeah, he's a businessman. He gets a call from this woman who wants to talk to him. And we don't ever see them have the conversation where she says, oh, hey, I got the donation that you gave to the sperm bank. And you're the father of my child, which incredibly unethical. They do bring it up in the movie. Jerry does say, isn't that unethical that she got your information from the person that works at the sperm bank? Like, that should not happen. And he's like, oh no, it's cool. She's friends with them. They used to have a thing, a couple or something. And it's like, what the fuck? No, that still does not justify it. Like
the whole
you
thing
shouldn't know. You should never have any contact with this woman whatsoever.
The movie is so uninterested in, like, they had to explain it because people would say, you know, like, well, she wouldn't know. So they had to like do it, but like they had to have every character kind of blasé about it because the movie has to move on. Because it's only a crisp hour and 60 minutes, which took me about 7 hours to watch. So I could watch about 2 phone calls at a time, and I would just had to tap out. I was just fucking. I was like, oh, good fucking lord.
We get lots of time jumps in this thing too.
When she's 8 months pregnant, I blew my mind. But like we have moments like there's a chunk of time where everyone's on the shitter when they call each other, and then like we had to have that for a while. We had to have a point where Martin kind of wieners his way into the other people's plot. When Jerry calls Barbara because they're finally going to talk to each other because we spent about 18 minutes of them Jerry trying to get out of talking to her, and he's finally going to call her, and he calls her, and she's on the toilet, and she hangs up, and then we'd have 3 minutes of him calling other people saying like, did she hang up on me or not? If she did hang up on me, I would rather not talk to her, and blah blah blah. And then we have, for no reason whatsoever, Martin calls Frank, who he does not know, to talk to him about Jerry's problem with Frank's ex's friend who hung up on his friend.
Yes.
Which is such a stretch. And
it's the equivalent of like today, your Facebook friend contacting a person who you went on like, or who you chatted with because you met in like a random Facebook group and you kind of hit it off, and then you chatted with them and then you stopped chatting with them, and then your friend reaches out to their friend to ask why that person stopped chatting with your friend.
It's, which I'm sure has happened.
It's maddening.
But it's maddening. It is like, well, as soon as that, I'm like, oh, they need Martin to talk to these people, to talk to the greater group as well. And the main character aspect of Tim Daly from Wings and Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde is that his character is never taken aback by anything. Like even Gale's death, he kind of just still stays kind of like relaxed in his chair.
Yeah.
But like no matter who calls him, he rolls with it completely. And I couldn't tell if they were intentionally writing him like that or it was just easier to write him like that.
I want to know how they shot this movie. Did they shoot everything with the single actor by themselves in like 1 or 2 days? Did they just shoot everything all together in one location? That way they could just do a couple of different angles, and on like Tim Daly, they shot all of his stuff because he's pretty much wearing the same clothes most of the time.
Yes, and he's mostly in a chair relaxing back. Jerry is mostly in his apartment.
Yeah.
Barbara has a few different places she calls from.
Yeah.
So she has Martin. And Denise, as the main titular character, the only way in which she is the main character, she's not even the inciting incident of anything, is that she has the most scenes of places she calls from.
Yeah,
so she had to go to
always
most
traveling.
She's always traveling. She is a character who is written like it's not a manic pixie dream girl. It's just she's someone who a writer would write. Not someone who, if you're trying to create a fleshed out character who's based on reality, not so much her, but like someone like I'm sure for as a writer, it is fun to write her as someone who just says things randomly and has incredibly huge emotions and does things things that you wonder, what is her motivation behind this? And then you take, as we said, you take her biggest reveal, which is kind of the thing that ties together the very end of the movie. And it's the reason why she's the named character of the movie. The fact that she is pregnant with the sperm donation of Martin Wiener. Get it, Wiener. Happens. We don't see that call. We have Martin mention it to Jerry.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm so besieged. That's like their big he says, I'm besieged a lot. I've never been so besieged. Yeah. That's his way of saying that he's overwhelmed. And we're supposed to know that. Is this like, are they I don't know what they're making fun of here. It just,
I don't know. I think the way to tie it really together is to have because we see Denise a couple times on a bus. We need to have the bus be responsible for killing Gale.
We do, but or the carousel.
She goes, see, that's how you could have done it. She goes into labor on the bus. It startles the bus driver, and he crashes into Gale, and sends that phone into her brain.
And that's how we made the award-winning movie Crash.
2 weeks in a row.
There is a point where Denise, who apropos of nowhere, Martin starts calling Denny. They're best friends, and
she's calling him Marty.
Yeah, we never saw this scene. And she's a person who, as a writer, she's so eccentric. She creates she assumes instant intimacy with people.
Yeah.
But is emotionally all over the place, and you can't predict her because she's eccentric. She's so eccentric that one time she calls from a carousel, and why is she calling from the carousel? I have no idea, other than they think it would be funny or eccentric to have her call while on a child's ride while 8 months pregnant.
Well, and she's also in a horse carriage riding around New York. I don't think we ever know what she does.
She's just an eccentric. She calls up Martin and won't say why she's telling him, but then apparently does tell him later off the phone. That entire first conversation where she's dancing around why she's cold calling this person who doesn't know her and acting like she knows him, but won't say how. The fact that they then reveal why she does when he talks to someone else.
Yeah, it should have
maddening.
been. Like I said in part one, it should have been that she knew that they murdered someone and she's got blackmail on them. That's what it should have been.
This is such an easy setup for a horror movie. It is so, and this is a movie where someone has a phone go through their brain, through their ear canal, which is a great Final Destinations kill.
Yeah. So I can't remember where exactly we are. They do set up people driving and talking because Barbara calls Jerry at a certain point while she's driving around. And I just wrote in my notes, that's very dangerous. And that was before Gale dies the same way.
It is they establish a series of not home phones that are larger and bigger and more weird looking every time I see them.
There's a car phone. There's a big cell phone. There's a phone on an airplane. There's
the phone on the airplane kind of confused me. What the fuck was that?
They used to have that.
That and wallpaper. What episode was that? That was Bloodsport.
No, not Bloodsport. That was Blood Fist.
We haven't done an episode on Bloodsport yet.
No, not yet. They Barbara and Jerry, a lot of their conversation is awkward pauses. They don't seem to have any real chemistry at first, and they kind of keep trying to make plans to meet, but nothing seems to be working out with their schedule because he's only available on these days and she's traveling soon and things are just not really working. And Barbara, to her credit, recognizes this. She's like, it was just an awkward conversation and I don't want to be involved with this guy. I don't want anything to do with him because I don't think that we would get along. And Gale cannot take no for an answer. She says, you need to call this guy. You need to get out more. You need to get laid. When was the last time you got laid, Barbara? And Barbara seems to stumble on this question, and I wonder if it's because she's sort of prudish and reserved, or is it because she's a virgin?
I thought it was the second, and that she didn't want to admit it, which makes that first joke even more horrifying. Okay,
yes,
no, not even more horrifying, but more even more disgusting,
more traumatizing.
I think the most they've thought about it is she's a prude because she wears glasses.
Yeah. So then she turns the tables on Barbara and says, well, when was the last time you had sex? She turns the tables on Gale and says, when was the last time you had sex?
I want to really stress in my head how much I got confused over which one was Barbara and which one was Gale.
And Gale says it was last July and it was the refrigerator repairman.
Oh God. So
I love that. I was like, how does that happen outside of a porno?
Wouldn't it be great if basically, because these characters are all separate, they never meet up. They could all be, and because Denise is kind of in this spot, they could all be in a different movie. Like Denise is in this crazy go through New York doing crazy things, random, inspiring people with your wackiness movie. She's on horse rides, she's on carousels. She could be in a different movie that has Zach Braff doing picking out the soundtrack to it, right? But she happens to be on the phone with other people. You could have where if you're making a comedy and you're gonna kill her in this bizarre way and try to pass it off like gas. You could make it where Gale's life is, oh, by the way, my life is basically a pornography. I'm not a porn star. My life just happens to have things that happen only in pornography.
Yeah, that would be good. Also, it shouldn't have been a refrigerator repairman. It should have been a telephone repairman.
It absolutely should have been. And he's there to confiscate the phone because it's been unplugged the entire time.
I was about to go there. And instead of killing him, she just has sex with him.
Yes, and then kills him. But this is where she sets up, and it takes forever to pay off.
Oh my fucking God, man! I'm just tying it together. We should have had a Whoopi cameo from the telephone where she just gets dialed in during the birth scene.
I bet you if you even suggested to her to watch this movie where everyone's on a phone the entire time, she would literally punch you the fuck out. She's like, I don't want anything to do with this ever again. How much of this movie was improvised? But this is where they start setting up where she's like, well, if you're on the phone with him, tell him you're wearing a red teddy. And I'm like, oh no. Yeah. Of course the fucking phone movie has to have a phone sex thing.
And licking the lollipop. And I'm like, ugh.
And they go so far. And if you look at the movie poster for this movie,
yeah, that didn't make any sense.
They have, I think it's supposed to be Barbara wearing a red teddy, and it is so misleading to what this movie is.
Yeah, the poster has Barbara, it has Tim Daly, and it has Denise, and they're on the phone. They're all on the phone, and then at the bottom there's Barbara in this red lingerie, and it's like, what kind of movie are they selling here? Well, also, there's a critic's blurb that says the funniest film of the year.
Nope.
Fuck you.
Also, the Cannes symbol is about them being a finalist is between her legs, and Barbara is licking the receiver in her picture. She's not this. This is not the character she is in this movie. This poster projects this character is going to be a sex bomb. She is not, and the phone. And this is where I love to just kind of go through the mind of the people making this poster. The font on Denise Calls Up is basically the same font as you would make for the Tom Cruise becomes an adult movie. It's a kindergarten cop font. It's
very similar to Kindergarten Cop. You're right.
And I don't know why it is. Every letter is a different one of the RGB colors, and it's this worse than Comic Sans font. Makes no sense.
Let me tell you some of the comedies that came out in '96.
that are that aren't as funny as this.
Well, yes, that are not as funny as this. Now, again, your mileage may vary with comedy. Comedy's very subjective, but I'm just going to tell you the comedy films that came out in 96, and we can kind of gauge whether or not they were funnier or as funny as Denise Calls Up. There's Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. Biodome.
I bet both those movies could have characters named Wiener as a joke.
Black Sheep. Happy Gilmore. Bottle Rocket. The Birdcage. Spy Hard.
Spy Hard.
The Cable Guy. The Nutty Professor. Kingpin. Kazam. Multiplicity.
This is not a great year.
House Arrest. It isn't. Waiting for Guffman. Okay, that's better. Bulletproof. Let's see what else. D3, The Mighty Ducks. Not really a comedy, but Space Jam. Mars Attacks. Hilarious. Jerry Maguire.
I would
Jingle
say
All the Way.
As much as Mars Attacks was maligned at the time, I would say it's a better movie than this by quite a bit.
Oh, it definitely is. And the film that invalidates the funniest film of the year comment for Denise Calls Up, released on August 30th, 1996, First Kid.
How have we gotten back to First Kid again?
I don't know, but we are there. So yeah, a bunch of competition in 96 that I mean, again, comedy's is a very particular thing, but I think that
my last comment on movie poster cast that we love to do is that the actress who plays Barbara has a mole on her face. Fine, it looks fine. It's just part of her face. She's a beautiful woman. They make sure the phone's over that on the poster, and that is, I can promise you, that is not a coincidence.
You think that's a note?
If they're gonna put her in lingerie with heels on, kicking the air, that's a note.
Yeah, possibly. There's a scene here where Jerry calls up Barbara in the middle of the night, and Barbara. And I can relate to this in a way, because if that ever happened to me, I wouldn't want the person calling me to feel bad that they woke me up. So I would say that I was awake, even when I clearly wasn't. And Barbara says, "Oh, no, I wasn't asleep. I just fell down and hit my head." And that's why I sound the way that I do.
And that's an honestly good bit.
Yes. It's good. I actually like Barbara as a character. I like her trepidation. I like just how she eventually, becomes a person. I don't like the movie that she's in, but I like her as a character, and I think that, she's pretty well rounded.
She's not killed halfway through the movie for no reason.
That is true. Thank goodness. They have this awkward conversation, and he is trying to get out of this potential plan that they have for the 21st. And he, at the same time, gets a call from Martin. These people just have no boundaries, calling people in the middle of the fucking night. And Martin tells Jerry that he's going to have a boy, because he had a whole thing with Denise where she didn't want to know the sex of the baby, or the gender of the baby, but she said that she would allow her doctor to tell Martin what it was, as long as he didn't tell her. And
she says that no matter in that sort of way that movies do, what the people in real life never say, she's like, no matter how much I yell at you, no matter how much what I say later, don't give in to me. Don't tell me what it is. So immediately she's going to do exactly that, because no one in history in a movie has ever brought that speech up and then not done the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder what sort of gender reveal party they would have had.
Oh my God. It's it's a boy.
How many acres would they have set on fire?
I mean, could you it had to involve phones for one thing. And then if it's a boy,
they blow up an AT&T.
Is it the boy they drop a bunch of wieners from like a fucking air balloon or something on the city? I don't know.
They throw a bunch of hot dogs off the roof of a building.
Go to Coney Island.
But so he tells, so Martin tells Jerry that they're having a boy, and Martin is super excited. He's like pumped. He somehow has found a purpose almost. Like it is invigorated him in a weird way. And then he has this weird moment with Jerry where he tells Jerry, "Call me daddy because I want to hear how it sounds." And then they go back and forth for a very long time with Jerry saying daddy in a bunch of weird voices.
If you want a soundboard of Liev Schreiber calling you daddy, we have the movie for you right here.
Yes. Use this. Call somebody up because it would fit with the movie. Call up a random restaurant and just have Liev just play the different versions of Liev Schreiber saying, "Hey, daddy."
Okay, I have a question. Is he on Cameo? Can we ask him?
Oh my God. Yes, let me look that up. Is Liev Schreiber on Cameo? Because if we can get him to say daddy in a bunch of different voices, I will gladly pay for that. No, fuck, he is not on here.
Well, we got to ruin his career so we can get him further close to that.
Is there another actor who is similar to Liev Schreiber who we could get to do a Liev Schreiber impression and say daddy?
Ooh, who is close to the Lievs?
Oh, I know what we could do. Let me see. Give me just a second to see.
Is Ray Donovan on?
No. What we're going to do.
Similar to
No.
Schreiber.
I got it. Listen to this. So, Liev Schreiber went on to play Wolverine in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Also, the other actor who is known as Sabretooth is Tyler Mane. He is also on Cameo. So we can get Tyler Mane to do Sabretooth and say daddy a bunch.
There were 7 seasons of Ray Donovan. I want everyone to know that.
Oh, is John Voight on there? He worked with him on Ray Donovan.
Why do people keep hiring him?
I don't know. So yeah, we'll think about hiring Tyler Mane to say daddy a bunch.
That is on our possibilities for 2020 to still to come.
$100 for that. Is that worth it?
Only if you explain to him in the request why you're doing it.
Yeah, I guess that could work. He might be more willing to do it then.
Oh, I'm sure that he would jump at the opportunity at that point.
But yeah, so they do that, and when Denise calls Martin again, he is extremely chipper. She thinks that something is wrong with him. He is so excited and amped up. And then this is when, of course, that she demands to know the gender of the baby, and she doesn't care if it's a boy or a girl as long as it's healthy and grows into a good person, but she really wants a girl. And he unfortunately does have to reveal to her that it's a boy, but we don't see her disappointment because this movie loves to cut away from things.
Especially these two, which, once again, the movie is called Denise Calls Up.
So this is around the time that in the movie that Gale dies, and so everybody's talking about that.
It is such a nothing, and like,
yeah, it is
to the point where, like, when her friends are calling, like, her mom is like, "And what is this in reference to?" "Well, I'm her friend." "Oh, good. Well, she's dead." And it's like, why is this funny? Like, it just seems like, aren't New York moms love to gossip? Like, her daughter got a phone through her brain.
I was hoping that was Gale, and somehow like 60 years had passed.
I think it's supposed to be Gale's aunt rather than her mother, but still,
but it might as well be.
It's Sylvia Miles.
Yeah,
and she's just playing her. playing herself, like she's in everything. And it's just like, it's so like, it's supposed to be funny because it's irreverent, but like, Gale isn't that character that you can just murder horrifyingly, and like, it's supposed to be funny that her aunt is more excited to bet she has something to gossip about. Like, it's not funny that they did that. Like, it's trying to say like people care more about the things they can talk about on the phone than what actual people being gone. Like, no, you're making a fucking huge broad statement there that's A, not funny, and B, you're so far up your ass about people don't connect anymore. They don't care anymore. It's like, guess what? Fucking piss off. If you want to see people not caring, I got a year for you. It's not 1996.
They kind of very casually deal with it. In fact, Jerry calls Martin and says, "Oh, Gale died," and Martin goes, "Oh no, who's Gale?" Like, because he doesn't know who the fuck it is.
Right. It's such a roundabout because we only see these basically five characters. So like, It seems to me like they're all connected. But even when we get to Jerry, who's been trying to be hooked up by Gale obsessively with Barbara, she's the middleman. Most of it's been through Frank. So when like he is brought up to him and like the funeral, like he clearly like, I don't really know her.
Yeah, he says he talked to her one time. He's basically never met her.
Like the whole thing of like, well, she knows he's perfect for Barbara, which she isn't. So Gale died being wrong. Is like based upon what Frank has said about Jerry to her during their long relationship, in which his good friend Jerry, whom he seems to call every day, never stopped over.
Okay. So Martin calls Denise, and then he tells her about Gale's death. And he's like, it's really upset my friend, so I'm kind of bummed. And then she puts the phone to her stomach to see if he can hear the baby. She's on the bus at this point, so all that he would hear was bus noise.
Buses are so fucking loud. I took a bus every day for every year of college. They are so goddamn loud. You would like the amount of just blank noise. There's no way. With a 1996 cell phone, all you'd hear, you'd be more likely to hear your neighbor's phone call, pick it up over the airwaves than you'd hear this baby.
Can you hear me? I'm on the bus right now. I'm going over the bridge right now. Do you want to hear the baby? Here, listen to the baby. Can you hear the baby's heartbeat on this bus that I'm on?
Man, I miss early cell phones where like there'd be somebody who you consistently would hear their phone calls during your phone calls for like a year on end, and you'd have no idea who it was. Oh, good times. Those are my best friends.
They talk about baby names potentially. She says if it had been a girl, she would have thought about Aphrodite because she wants a very special name for her baby. He suggests some kind of very standard names, Edward, Robert, very simple things. She says, hey, what about Penley for our child's name, which means enclosed pasture.
It's a small little fenced-in area, the child. And once again, we had to mention, even though they are now picking out names of the baby together, because this movie is making a point, they have not met.
No, they have not met. It feels so bizarre that this is what they're doing. And like, we get it. We get what they're saying. We get the commentary. It just still feels so weird.
And we keep having, she has asked to meet him and he wants to meet her, but he keeps saying that telling her that he doesn't want to meet.
Yeah. And then he can't do it yet.
And then he tells his friends, I don't know why I keep saying that. Because society, folks.
So this is when we have the next plateau in Jerry and Barbara's relationship. He calls her while she's on a business trip and asks how she's doing. And with Gale's horrible death. And, they kind of connect here a little bit more. She says she likes hearing his voice on the phone, and she's wondering if he'll stay on the phone with her while she gets ready to go to bed. And of course, this leads to them kind of starting phone sex, and she's, talking about her pajamas, and then she starts talking about how hot and sticky it is in her room. And then, he starts asking about her underwear. I found this scene sort of charming because in the very few times I have ever done any sort of phone sex, it's always awkward for me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm terrible at it. And
that's why we do not offer it as one of our tiers on the Patreon.
Yeah. Pay me $100 a month and I'll figure it out for you. But until then, no.
Okay. We will add the $100 per month.
Someone will do it. If I do that, someone will do it just because.
Yes. I will get part of the money, but have not to do anything about it. That's the good part.
But I liked this scene only because it does accurately capture the awkwardness of that moment, especially for someone that you don't really know that well, and it just kind of leads there. It can be a little awkward, and I think that they do a good job of making that sort of work.
I think anytime this movie fell into a spot where I could believe they were real people, I was happy.
Yes.
This versus the next phone sex scene, which I absolutely hated, because
I loved it.
Okay, if you find it funny because you think because you really enjoy the amount of lack of subtlety in it, like it being hit with a fucking hammer, like you're watching a movie made by the guy who wrote Pluggers. Comic strips, then you can really get into that scene because it is so dumb what they do.
This is also their first time through. This is when she kind of uses Gale's advice, and she goes, "Oh, I actually just found a red silk teddy and also a lollipop." And so, of course, they engage in their audio coitus here. We also get we also cut to Linda listening to her answering machine message that is Gale dying.
Once again, very funny.
It's crazy. And
then because also Linda is back in the movie. She's the first scene, and then she's not in it for a long time.
Yeah,
which is she's from because she has been in The Sopranos. It was weird that she was in the movie and not, but it's 1996, I guess.
Yeah.
But then she's back for the rest of the movie as much a character as anybody else is.
Yeah. They see Barbara and Jerry seem to be hitting it off. They kind of are talking a little bit more. We do see Leo Schreiber after their first night together asleep on his bed nude with the phone covering his dick, which I thought was maybe uncomfortable, but it makes for a striking visual, I suppose. Back
when phones didn't vibrate when they get called, so I guess.
Yeah, just the hot of that bell ringing. So Frank is about to go to Gale's funeral, but then doesn't. And apparently no one does.
See, this, if you didn't realize yet, this is how disaffected they are about interacting as people. This movie is. If this movie was made today, it is the very essence of someone drawing a picture of two people across the table at a restaurant texting each other.
That is what it is, actually. That's what this movie is. This hour 16-minute movie is that drawing.
It's that drawing for a whole movie. And you didn't have to have a character horrifically die and then the other characters not go to her funeral at that point to really go you get it? Not
they sell
even
it
for
again
this.
At the end of the movie.
And they do it again at the end of the movie. And we have two characters break the mold at that point. But all this, my lasting image of this movie is sad tuxedo Tim Daly.
Oh, we'll get there. So they kind of all are talking again, and basically people are giving excuses as to why they didn't go to the funeral. Linda's like, well, I've never been to a funeral before, and they're kind of discouraging, so I didn't want to go. And Frank was like, I didn't really stay. And this is when Frank is like, well, Gale was planning a party. So I would like to try to do that. I would like to, get everybody together and try to kind of honor her final wishes. She wanted to bring us all together, so we should do that in her honor, because she was a good person and we liked her. And so,
and yet,
yeah, and Jerry calls Barbara after she's back from her business trip and apologizes for not meeting her at the airport. And 95 New York, I don't know what it was like trying to get to and from the airport, but like, don't tell someone you're gonna possibly meet them at the airport, because that's a dick move if they wait around for you.
Because there's just so many people there. You spend so much time looking at crowds of people, seeing, is that person going to be there?
Because she doesn't even know what he looks like at this point. She's only seen a photo of him as a child, so she doesn't know what he looks like. She doesn't know who to look for.
We don't know for sure that he hasn't faxed a more current picture to her. I'm
going to assume that he hasn't, because they pass each other on the street at the end of the movie and don't stop.
That is true.
They don't know what each other looks like.
Maybe it's more poignant if they do and they're pretending not to.
No.
Poignant, my friend.
They both talk about how they didn't go to the funeral. He says he wanted to, but then he got caught up with stuff. She planned to, but didn't.
She really should have.
She should have. Absolutely. That's her fucking friend.
Like they're in theory good friends. They talk all the time.
Yeah.
Until she died.
And Gale is so caught up in Barbara's happiness that she's trying desperately to get her to go out with a guy.
Yeah, like I almost can see Jerry's position of like, I don't really know her, and then I'd have to meet people that it might be awkward to at this place. That might be an awkward place to first meet them.
Yeah,
like, almost like he doesn't really know her, but like Barbara and Frank not showing up, it's real hard to justify that. Like, and thus sad Frank at the end is kind of even funnier.
Yeah. So Jerry is talking to Barbara and he's like, all this talk of death is kind of making me sort of horny. And so they have phone sex here, which is, we've already alluded to earlier, but it entails them just rubbing the phone on themselves in various ways.
So this movie gets to the very subtle moment. This movie that is all it is single camera shots, people on the phone talking to each other. The whole movie is this. And now we get to the very unsubtle point of where they literally have sex with phones. Not have sex on the phone. They have sex with the phones.
Because there are shots of the phone rubbing across Frank's chest hair, which is really fucking funny. And then towards the end of the scene, he is taking that phone downtown.
I don't
like if you get jizz in the phone holes, you're fucked, man.
I'm trying to consider in my head, like, is the person making the movie, does he think he has to be this unsubtle with the symbolism? Probably, considering this movie. Does he think it's funny that he's being this unsubtle with it? Maybe. Does he think this is what phone sex actually is? Like, does he actually think that the phone itself is involved? Because you actually have to have the thing to your ear to hear, and you have another hand, which is what you would use. Like,
and Barbara's rubbing a red lollipop all over herself too. So
that's very, very sticky.
Hey, put the phone between your legs. I want to hear it.
On the phone. I put it between your legs on the phone. On the bus.
It's incredibly silly and really funny, and I enjoyed it for the audacity of it.
The audacity for them to literally, in this movie that's so unsubtle about the phone, to it. Like, for all it's worth, the other movie, The Telephone, Bill Goldberg does not have sex with physically the telephone.
That's too bad. We do have one final little segment where with Gale's aunt, where she says that even if she had survived the crash, she would have been a vegetable because she swallowed her own tongue.
Why are they doing this
amount
character?
of gory details that they give on this poor woman's death is baffling to me. Like, is this director? Does the director hate Gale? Did he know someone who was like Gale and he was like, I'll show her, and then just had this character die in a horrific way?
I don't know. It just seems so like I said, she's the most human character besides her weird need to hook these people up. Like, she has this whole moment of like, I'm lonely and I'm just trying to, I don't understand why we're apart anymore. I'm tired of life moving us apart, which is like what this movie is about. And then she has not been comedy the entire time. And then just to like really like, I know it's the funniest movie of the year. And these are hitting out of the park, but to just really make her death so unbelievably off-screen gory and have characters just drop more and more details about how terrifyingly awful it is, like this young woman's death, I don't understand it. I don't know. I'm trying to see if she was on this. She was on an episode. That actress was on an episode of X-Files. I'm trying to see if it was the same episode that Liev Schreiber was on, but it isn't. So I'm sad.
So there, we cut 3 weeks later. Jerry is talking to Martin, and Jerry's talking about how good it feels to be with Barbara, even though he is again not physically with her. They just talk on the phone. Martin says he comes back from call waiting. He says Denise is going into labor. Denise wants Martin to stay on the line. They kind of go back and forth between the four of them. And then suddenly there's a very Jamaican cab driver.
Sure is.
That kind of made me lose my mind a little bit. And Denise is at the hospital, and they're doing a conference call with all four of them, with her and Jerry and Barbara and Martin. And then Frank somehow gets on the line because he was trying to call Jerry. And then the doctor is there on the phone, and he chastises Martin for telling Denise the baby's gender. And then Linda is suddenly on the call, and then Gale's aunt is there as well. And everybody is telling her to push. The cab driver somehow gets conferenced in as well.
How did that happen?
I don't know. I like this moment as well. Kind of like with the phone sex sequence. Like, it's so stupid, and just the sheer ridiculousness of it all. I was like, all right, this is kind of charming and kind of funny, with everybody yelling push and Gale's mom constantly saying, don't focus on the pain. Like, that part was funny because it's just so silly and over the top. And the movie needed that. Like, it needed that stuff. It has these weird over the top moments, but there's not enough of them. It tries to do it when there are people on the toilet. It tries to, it does it with the phone sex thing. It does it with this moment. And I think it's trying to also do that with Gale's death, but it's just so horrific that it's like, okay. But this moment I kind of liked. I don't know. I think it was kind of funny.
It was nicely enough over the top and ridiculous, where like in reality breaking enough that I was better with it than the death thing.
Yeah.
I find this funnier than someone being on the crapper on the phone, which they run too long with. It's funnier than there's only one answering machine joke on this, which is a harmonized wait for the beep thing, which I thought they were gonna really go hard on that since it happened so early.
Yeah.
Because we loved our funny answer machines back then.
This is the director and some people that he wrote this. Basically, it's a barbershop quartet. Like, wait for the beep, wait for the beep, wait for the beep, that kind of thing. And if you, I know you didn't, because you probably shut this off as soon as it said the end on the screen. If you go through the credits at the end of the credits, you can hear the guys doing that, like making it. You can hear them talking, going, what if we try it this way? Oh, let's do it this way. Okay, let's just do it the way it was originally. And you hear them record it and then go, don't think we got it.
So you're a little younger than me, or a lot younger. So did you miss the answer machine leaving funny messages? Funny responses?
No, because that showed up in movies. Like I saw it in movies. There is actually in a movie that came out the same year as this, Cable Guy. I think there is an answering machine gag in that one too, because I think he calls someone and it sounds like it's a regular message, but it's not. It sounds like someone's picked up, but it's not. It's a recording. I think there's one of those in the Cable Guy. I think there were other movies around the era where someone, made a joke message that you thought was actually them talking, and then they revealed a second later, nope, sorry, you're talking to a machine, like that kind of thing.
I think, my brother and I did at least two that I remember.
Okay.
One we did, my parents were on vacation. My brother and I re-recorded the little mini tape inside the answer machine. We did our answer machine in French. And all my dad's old friends were calling up and leaving messages like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this? Who is this French guy talking to me? And my dad was very upset about that.
What did you say?
Je m'excuse, mais je n'ai pas ici laissé un message à la beep.
Okay, so that just means what? Leave a message at the beep. We're not here.
Yeah. So we did it kind of sing-songy.
Oh, okay.
And my dad just hated the French, and his friends hated the French and couldn't understand why they were calling Roy Skinner and why they're getting a French person. So he was monstrously angry about that. So the next time he went away, my brother changed the message to yo, this is Roy's Crack Shack. Leave a message.
God.
And that made him even angrier.
But when he was screaming at you, he said, at least they weren't French.
Pretty much. I believe he did say, at least it wasn't in a fucking other language.
Wow. All right.
So he was so mad about the French. I can't even put into words.
That's very funny. Denise has her baby, and it turns out it's not a boy. It's actually a girl. And the doctor was like, well, guess I was wrong.
Generally, the mistake goes the other direction, but it can happen.
Yeah. And Martin is kind of upset because he bought a baseball glove, and we all know that girls don't like baseball.
We had a whole movie about that.
Could never play baseball ever.
I would complain about a character who's upset that they didn't have a boy, but apparently we'll blow down, we'll destroy entire states because we're so excited about hopefully it's a boy.
I mean, League of Their Own came out in fucking 92. They would know about that. Women can play baseball, man.
Did this character, Martin Wiener, in this universe, has he taken time away? He has so much trouble meeting people in trouble. He's so busy. He's so besieged. Has he gone to the theater or rented on VHS A League of Their Own in this universe?
No, probably not. He probably doesn't know what that is.
He doesn't. I mean, he might know from the commercial that there's no crying in baseball.
Yes, because he believes that means that girls are not involved.
Right. Lori Petty is a treasure.
Yeah, he seems very distraught, so he takes that baseball glove and he just shreds it right in the shredder.
What a dick thing to do.
And we get 1 month later. We have Jerry calling Martin, who is in the tub, and Jerry says that he and Barbara have been making love, and it's been fulfilling until lately. And I was like, oh, did they meet off camera? And then I realized, no, of course they didn't.
So that phone's got to be filthy.
Oh my God, yeah. He says that he thinks that she was faking it during their last love-making session, I'll say. And so he said he faked it too. And then he's like, well, I'll never call her back. And then, of course, he calls her back immediately. And she seems very cold to him. She's like, I'm on a business call. I don't have time to talk to you. And he sort of says, are you going to be at Frank's party? And she's not sure, but he kind of badgers her into being there. He's like, please be there. I think, we both need to talk, see each other. So she's like, fine, I'll go.
We have had, because this is a storytelling, we have had a complete changing of positions where now he wants to meet her and she is too busy to meet him.
Yes.
And avoiding him.
It turns out that Barbara is now talking to Linda, who's now back in the movie, about how smothering Jerry is. And Martin calls Denise, and Denise is talking about how the baby loves this rattle that he sent, and he tells her about the New Year's Eve party and he wants her to be there as well. And so all these people are making these plans to be at this party. And we finally get to the party at the end of the movie. And of course, there's no one there at Frank's yet. So Tim Daly is just sitting there in a tuxedo in a nicely appointed apartment with a Christmas tree and a fireplace and, glasses of champagne by himself. And we see everybody making their way. And it's like, okay, eventually they're all going to get there and it's going to be great.
No, we have Tim Gatsby here staring off the blinking light. As the decadence of New York ends on this last day of 1996. We see Jerry, he's wearing kind of dressed up, but he's still on his laptop, because he probably fucks that thing too. A laptop on his bed. He's clearly not going to go anywhere, but he's fighting back and forth. And we see Martin kind of imming and awing, but we see the titular character. I want to make this very strong. Denise is the movie is named after Denise. Denise is walking down the street with a giant old-fashioned baby carriage that is decorated for the New Year's.
Yeah.
Which is very impressive. She's all dressed up. She is clearly acting on the party, but she gets to the door of this person who she does not know.
No.
She is as much as removed. Martin is kind of removed from everybody besides Jerry, but she's another layer removed from them.
Yeah.
But she's the only one there until Martin shows up.
Well, okay, but first, before we get to that, so she buzzes in at Frank's, and Frank doesn't answer. He just lets it buzz. It buzzes over and over again. He does not go to the door. He does not move. And so Denise sits on the steps. This is New York on New Year's Eve. It's probably fucking freezing, and she has a baby. It's somewhere another part of the city.
Yep. Hamburgers fighting something.
Yeah, some guy's falling into the New Year's Eve festivities down below, and
she could be watching Dick Clark right now, but instead she's sitting on this asshole's front step while he drinks champagne and does not answer the buzz.
And we do see Linda all dressed up to go, and as she's about to go out the door, she pauses. And so the next time we see her, she's back at her computer typing away. Jerry and Barbara do actually get dressed up and they do go out and they do almost end up at the party. They walk right past each other in front of Frank's place. They don't stop. They don't acknowledge Denise on the steps. They just walk right past each other. They pause momentarily, slightly turn back, but then just keep walking.
They almost certainly would have to know that's Denise because she is the only person who would have a baby who would be dressed up at this door. Yeah.
And they keep going on their own ways. They're never going to meet, apparently. And Denise is sitting there, and Martin, who has been working this whole time, and assured her that he would get off and be able to make it to the party. He finally arrives. He sees her there. He looks at the baby, and then she gets up, and they never speak to each other. She just gets up and starts walking away with the baby, and he walks with her in step. They walk out of frame, and we get the end on the thing. So, they made something work, but they're so minimal to the overall movie. Like, we're with Jerry and Barbara so fucking much, and for them to just not come together is kind of infuriating. Again, I get it. I get that's what the movie is doing, but it still pisses me off.
I try to figure out if they were trying to say like Martin and Denise have stepped out of the pace that everyone else is in and gotten in lockstep because they've both realized there's something bigger than themselves.
Yes, maybe. And that's great.
That's great, but it's also the movie's not about them.
If we had started the movie with Martin getting the phone call from Denise,
that should have been the first part of the movie.
And then like going, oh, okay. And then it's from Martin. Like, if you want to split off and you want to see what Jerry and Barbara are up to or whatever, but you need to have Martin get that phone call first and then call his friend Jerry, who then starts telling him about the situation with Barbara. And then you bring in Frank and Gale and Barbara and Linda. And then it kind of blossoms out from there. But like, for Martin to get introduced just midway through that first 10 minutes and not have the weight put on him as sort of the start of the story, or Denise as the start of the story, and then to have this big ending where they just like connect with each other and go about their lives. And it's like, I mean, I get it. It's a nice sentiment at the end, but like, I don't feel like it works as well as it could.
If you're going to call your movie Denise Calls Up and the whole movie is about people doing phone calls, the first person who calls anyone should be Denise. We assumed for the first few minutes when we were watching Linda, who's not a character, call people, that she was Denise.
Yes.
Because you would start the movie called Denise Calls Up with Denise's call. And then that gets the dominoes going.
Yeah.
Instead, we almost see Frank first. I know he's the big star, but in the end, he's a nothing burger. He's sitting there in his party in his sad little suit. He's too tired to get up and answer the buzz. He needs to take a Red Wing, drink a Red Wing so he can get some wings and move his ass. Or, okay, besides that joke, here's the real trick. Like, if Frank is going to be a character and you're going to say like, okay, well, Tim, my friend, Tim, you are the marquee person. You're the center of the poster. Wings so hot. Your hair so good. You're a star. You're the star of this movie. It's called Denise Calls Up. She's not the main character. But we're going to end with her so we can say that we meant it that way. But you are the main character. The person you love, but the lifestyle of New York, the lifestyle of the 1996, because we're so fucking 1996. This lifestyle has left you alone on New Year's Eve party. The person you should be with has died a horrifying death. It should end with him crying.
Yeah.
It should end with him devastated. Like
it should end with him at Gale's grave.
If he's having a party in Gale's honor, and he thinks either no one's shown up because they have done the same thing to her that has ruined Gale, like they went against everything Gale was trying to stop. Is her last conversation with him was about how drifting apart has ruined everything, and now she's dead. And like he's sitting there, and he can't break what this groove he's in, right? And nor can his friends, who he talks to too often. And he realizes this, and he can't even answer the door, and it buzzes. Like, he should be, instead of just looking sad, he should look devastated.
Yeah. There should be more there than that.
Yeah, like he looks slightly less relaxed than he always does. And he's wearing a tuxedo. He should be just like, I can't do this. I thought I was going to do this for Gale, but in fact, it doesn't mean anything because she's died. A phone went through her brain.
Yeah.
But that would be a movie that isn't a comedy, and this is 1996's funniest movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of Denise Calls Up. It is a movie that is interesting from a sort of formal exercise because I don't think I've ever seen another movie like this where almost no characters share the same scene until the end of the movie. I don't know. I think I am happy to have seen it because it is a very unique film, probably one of the more unique things that we've ever covered on this show. And I'm glad to have it in our catalog. I'm glad for people to one day, find the show and find us talking about this movie, because inevitably this will be a movie that they have never heard of, because I cannot imagine anyone ever talking about this except to say that movie is weird and I don't know if I like it.
Man, here's my final thought on this, because like I said, I do not like this movie. It's not so much because of the quality or the writing or the time frame, or I'm not into the phantom threads of the plot movies where they all come together in large New York ensemble comedies. It may be very specifically not for me. If it's for you, fine. Like everyone, like I'm not you. We all have different brains. It's fine. But I cannot believe that if you're making this movie in 1996 and you're entirely basing it upon everyone doing single room acting to a phone, and you want it to be the funniest movie of 1996, which it was, how did you not hire for one of the characters John Leguizamo?
When did The Pest come out? Was that 96, 95?
Let's look up. When did The Pest come out?
97.
He had his height. So maybe he was busy filming it and he couldn't do this. But man, how is John Leguizamo not in this movie? Could you imagine him having phone sex?
Oh God, no.
Let's talk about John Leguizamo having phone sex and all the noises he would make.
Let us not do that.
What if this movie had ended as Martin and Denise were walking off camera, and then it freeze framed for no reason, and then freeze frame played?
I mean, they could have just they could have gotten hit by a bus or something.
I think if the freeze frame would have been better if it had freeze framed on sad Tim Daly. Because their lives are frozen.
Oh, very interesting.
Which would have been more poignant had John Leguizamo been in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode on Denise Calls Up. Thanks to Darren for bringing this one to our attention and making us watch it, because we never would have watched it otherwise. And like I said, I'm glad that we did. I'm glad that we had this very fun conversation, and I'm glad that you told us about Whip Man outside. How's that going? Is he still practicing? Give us an update.
Okay, another guy came over and he gave him one of the whips, and then
my God!
That guy seemed to almost hurt the other guy with the whip, and he took them back. Then he bought both whips in his hand again and started spinning them in the air, like circular, like he's going to lasso someone. But that's not how whips work. They are now sitting on the lawn, cross-legged, and probably chatting about the whips.
I'm going to need a constant update on Whip Man and his activities.
I have lived here for 1 month, and no activity has ever come from that house. There's never been anyone on the front lawn. They've never been out in the front porch doing anything. And now this guy has, on 4 different occasions today, on a busy street, on a sidewalk, covering the entire sidewalk, he has been cracking 2 whips at once through the air. They are both about 6 feet long, and people will walk by who he doesn't know, who aren't trying to film him, and trying to figure out how to walk by this guy with a whip. Today, I had to Google, are whips legal in Minnesota? They are. You can own a chain whip in Minnesota.
Oh my God.
So, if Dracula was to come back to life in Minnesota, we have the ways to defeat him.
Well, we will be back next week to cover the last of Darren's picks. And we'll go ahead and tell you now, if you don't remember from the mini episode, that's going to be Myth of the American Sleepover.
Don't hang up on us right now. We have one more to go.
That's right. We have a little bit more to go. But we'll be back next week to talk about Myth of the American Sleepover. But until then, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us. Now, hang on one second. I got another call.
I gotta go see a guy about a whip.
If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. To get monthly bonus content, sign up at patreon.com/predictocast. As always, thanks for listening.